Hey y'all, what's going on? Clay here with Hagen Oaks and Morton Golf Sales, and today I have Josh with TaylorMade here, and we're going to be going over the internet's most asked questions about TaylorMade. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's get after it.
So we did some deep research, dove into the deep dark web, and ultimately came out with the top most asked questions from people all over the world about TaylorMade. So let's go ahead and dive on in. And the first one is, I feel like, let's say of all time, if you can answer it that way, but what's the number one TaylorMade driver?
Yeah, so this question is super interesting because people ask this all the time. I mean, obviously, as a technology brand, we really pride ourselves on being the number one metalwood, company in golf. So we are always driving innovation forward. So honestly, I really do say, like, currently, my favorite driver that I've ever played by TaylorMade and what I think is currently the Sim driver. And the reason for that is just because, one, from a shape, when you're golfing, you look at shape, you look at obviously performance, how it feels, and then how it performs on the misses. And for me, the Sim driver just has all those attributes. Just, there's nothing I'd nitpick. Sometimes our products in the past would be like, oh, I wish it was just did this a little bit better, or looked a little bit differently, or the crown was a little different. And for the Sim, I mean, I think it's absolutely amazing. They knocked it out of the park. And even with the quarantine, the kind of the market share and the sales are really showing that, which is really cool to see. But then from another standpoint, like just from a technology and innovation standpoint, there's a few drivers that kind of stick out to me that really changed just the game of golf and how all manufacturers started changing the way that they develop products for consumers. And the first one would be probably the R5 driver. That one was the first driver that had like weight in the back of the head. So it was still a bonded club, so you couldn't adjust it yet, but it did have weight in the back of the head. And there's two different models, a draw type and then a neutral bias. So that was kind of something new that no one really had done yet. And then the R7 is probably what most people would say is like the greatest innovation that really drove the industry forward. And that was the first driver that ever had movable weight technology. So that's like, in the Sim now we have the sliding bar.
Yeah.
The Sim Max has the weight in the back. We've had so many different weights and weight systems that we've changed, throughout the past 10 years. But the R7 was the very first one that had those weights in the back that you can adjust it. So if you really fought a slice, you could put heavier weight in different spots and lighter weight in certain spots in the back of the head to adjust that slice, and vice versa with the draw. So those two, definitely R5 and then R7 was probably massive. And then R9 was the first one with what we call the FCT sleeve. So we're the first ones to introduce like that adjustable loft sleeve that you see on every single driver that's created now just about. And that was, that allows you to adjust loft. So say you have a 10.5 degree loft. At that time, you could adjust it 1 degree. So you could adjust it down to 9.5, and that opens the face, flattens the lie angle. So no one's ever seen anything like that in a driver. It was always bonded. It was always, here, you get a 10.5 stiff, here you go. Whereas that R9 allowed us to really pick out, you could change shafts, you could change loft, you could change lie angle. So those couple, probably the R7 and then the R9, were probably the two greatest innovations I think that we kind of pride ourselves on as a company. And then the last one would be the R11, because that was the introduction of white. So, that kind of everything before R11 was, in everybody was always, for the most part, just black or like a dark gray, just a basic steel traditional look, which still a lot of drivers are like that. But you see different things now with materials and carbon crowns, and we had a white driver, we've had white and black. Right now it's kind of like a little white with like a soft gray, kind of looks like a race car kind of. So it's just that kind of started that trend as well.
Oh, interesting. So basically in that, it's like the number one driver right now is the Sim, which is the newest model, which is kind of like all those innovations coming together into one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've had a couple of them. Sounds like a lot of the R series drivers were the ones that have had a lot of those, like the most I guess, important innovations along the way that really kind of changed the industry as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the greatest thing about, working for TaylorMade. And I've been with the company for 6 years now. So I've seen a lot of different phases of how we kind of develop products, from working in the sales, inside sales, and then marketing, and now as an outside sales rep. So I've been able to see kind of how everything goes. And the cool thing is that usually we always build upon the previous technologies. We take what was great and then we'll add something new and develop it. So it just keeps progressing forward, similar to other, you look at like an iPhone, they're always going to take the best attributes, adjust a couple things and make something better. So yeah, the R series, that was funny when you mentioned that, like all the R5, R7, R9, and then up to R11. all four of those models really just kind of set us forward for what we did for the, basically all from 2010 all the way through now to 2020.
Wow. Interesting. It's crazy how it can all come from like one place, like one line. And then, so the next question, and I think this one's probably one that a lot of people are asking right now, is how do they choose which sim driver is best for them as a golfer?
Yeah. So there's 3 sim drivers. So we have the normal sim, it's just called sim. And that one is typically for someone who is a higher spinner of the golf ball and maybe likes kind of that more player shape, if you will. So that would be our one that has the adjustable sliding weight in the front of the head. So that one, you kind of, like we were just talking about with the movable weight technology, you can slide that 15, 20 gram weight in the front, to fade or draw bias, depending on what you're looking for. So generally, the way that kind of my team of fitters that, run all my territory would fit is generally that's someone who spins it a lot or is kind of a better player, because it's not going to be as forgiving because there's more weight up front. It also has weight in the back and that kind of that sim twisted port in the back there, but it doesn't have as much as like a sim max would. So the sim max, it doesn't have that sliding weight up front. So it puts all the weight low back, which brings that center of gravity low and back, which improves that MOI number. And MOI, for those that don't know, is basically just the number that measures forgiveness, essentially. Mm-hmm. So the higher the MOI number, the more forgiving a product's going to be. So generally a sim, that's for a better player, a guy that spins a little bit more, maybe a little bit more neutral to fade bias, I'd say. And then a sim max is more kind of neutral to slightly draw bias, definitely more forgiving. As far as the sweet spot, is going to be about 10-15% bigger than the normal sim. So from an overall perspective, kind of what we see between those two, and then, we get into the sim max D type as well. The D type and the sim max is just the draw bias version. So all we do there is we throw a little bit of external weight out on the heel to help, neutralize a little bit for those golfers that really struggle missing it to the right. And then it shuts the face a little bit as well, because the face is a little bit deeper in the sim max D. So a little bit more shut at address, a little bit more loft, and a little bit more weight externally on the heel to really help get rid of that slice. So typically what we see is we're probably, as far as like, demo days and fitting events go, is probably about 60-65% into the sim max. The majority of golfers go there because, and I don't want people to think that a sim max is for like, a mid to high handicap. The great thing about that is it fits everybody. There's guys on tour that play the sim max, like Jason Day, for example. DJ's gone back and forth with the sim and the sim max. I believe in the Tailor-Made driving relief on Sunday, I think he played the sim max in that one, in that event. So he kind of goes back and forth depending on what he's looking for. So I'd say, 60-65% in the sim max, and then probably another, 20-25% in the sim, and then, the 15-20% in the sim max D is typically what we're seeing right now.
Interesting. See, I would have thought more people would be going towards the D just because I hear, like the slice is such a common thing.
Yeah.
So do you hear, like, as you guys are making recommendations, is there something that would determine that recommendation between the max and the max D, of why you would say, let's say an average golfer would want, say, one versus the other?
Yeah. So it just really depends what they're like. Say most people that you talk to that are, 10 to 20 handicaps or higher, they want to hit a little bit of a draw, So the cool thing that we have, again, with the loft sleeve and all the different settings that we can do is we could take, say, a 9-degree sim max, and I can bring it 2 clicks to the higher side on the loft sleeve, which basically makes it 10.25 or 10.5 degrees aloft on the actual loft. But then dynamically what it does is it shuts the face 2 degrees. So that's going to already help them draw it as well. So if we did that with the sim max D type, the face would be a lot more shut. So it really just depends how much they fight a slice, how much they want to work it right to left, and then which one feels better to them. Because at the end of the day, what the most important thing about fitting is, like, any fitter would tell you, doesn't matter how good you are, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what that customer thinks is going to perform best for them. So if they're between 2 models, we're always going to recommend the one that we think's best, but it comes down to what mentally they think looks better and they like, So it really just comes down to individual preference, but the sim max D type has been really popular this year because in the past we've made it a little bit too shut, in my opinion, and this year it's a lot deeper. So deeper basically means it's a little bit taller. So it expands that sweet spot and actually brings spin down, because typically the golfers that hit it right, they come across it a little bit. They're hitting it on the high toe, which adds a lot of spin, you know, or low heel adds a lot of spin. And since this head's a lot deeper, it's a lot taller than the Sim Max and the Sim, it actually lowers spin. So a lot of guys have been really liking that this year.
Okay. Awesome.
There's actually a two or two real quick that played the Sim Max D-type. He's not a contracted player, but you know, Keegan Bradley, I'm sure everybody knows him. He doesn't get paid to play our products or anything like that. He's not on TaylorMade staff, but he did play the D-type before the whole quarantine happened. I think he did like a, you know, Sim Max 9 degree, cranked it down a little bit, and he just loved the way it looked because of that deeper face.
Interesting. So pretty much any of the models can fit anybody of any skill level. It really just depends on what exactly they're looking for with all the different variables that go into choosing a club.
Yeah, like if they want more forgiveness, like will they sacrifice 2 to 3 yards for a little bit more forgiveness if they mishit it? You know, what are they kind of looking for? What drivers did they play in the past? Do they like messing with the sliding weights? You know, if they one day they're fighting a bad hook, do they want to move that weight, or do they never touch it? You know, we've fit golfers where they have an old, say, an M1 product or something like that. And I'm like, oh, how do you like it? Do you mess around with this? And they're like, honestly, I got fit for it, you know, 3-4 years ago. I've never changed it. So then they're like, I don't really care. It's just what I got fit into. So I think one thing, you know, I'll keep referencing is it's just so important to get fit these days. As you guys know, you know, with the performance studio at Hagen Oaks, I mean, you know, from everything that we have to offer, you know, you guys have in line. So getting fit is just so important to make sure you get exactly what you want when you're buying, you know, an expensive product.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially one that you're hoping to use for a while. You're not going to be replacing in a couple of months or a year or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. And then to move on a couple of questions. So let's see, a lot of them are very driver based. So I guess one of the new ones is TaylorMade. I know we had the Sim released a little while ago, a couple months ago. Do they have any new drivers that they're working on that you know of, or like new innovations that they're looking at? That obviously I know you can't reveal everything, but
yeah. So yeah, people are always asking that, you know, I mean, so for us, typically it's similar. We're a technology brand, right? We're innovative. We need to come out with new products because that's what drives our business, and that's what drives our customers too. You know, like Hagen Oaks, for example, you know, we need new products to come out because people get antsy and they want new stuff. But with that being said, we know we need to kind of take our time with how we release products. You know, it's similar to another, again, you mentioned, you know, look at like an iPhone. They come out usually once a year, they come out with a brand new phone. Doesn't mean your old one's any worse than it was. But, you know, maybe 2-3 years down the road, you look to replace it with that new technology. So for us, typically, I mean, our R&D department's always working a couple years ahead, as any R&D department in any industry is doing. But we have since the R15 and the Aero Burner line, so that was 2015, we've been very, very consistent in launching one driver line every year. So 2015 and then 2016 was M1. 2017 was M1, M2 again. So 2016, M1, M2, that's same lines, launched at, you know, similar time. Same in 2017. 2018 was M3 and M4. So you'd see kind of how we do it. We'd have the M3 would be like what Sim is now, kind of the adjustable version, a little bit for a better player, lower spinning. M4, more forgiving. But, you know, same, launched at the same time. And then last year, M5, M6, and then this year, Sim drivers. So that's the full line, but there's a couple different models depending on what type of golfer you are and what you're looking for. So for us, of course, we're always looking ahead. You know, I'm not sure exactly what the R&D department's working on right now, but I could tell you that they're definitely working. You know, we're able to get some of our essential workers back in the headquarters down in Carlsbad this past week, which is great. So they're back, they're doing, you know, robot testing and impact testing and doing all the things that they do. But yeah, I mean, typically, again, back in like 2010, 2011, 2012, we definitely changed the way, you know, we were doing things. And most people would say we launched too many drivers too quickly. So we've really taken a step back from how we did things back then. And really the last 5 years, if you look at the landscape of the industry, we launched consistent as much or less than other manufacturers out there as far as how many drivers are available or how many products are available in general. And we really take our time in testing the products and before, you know, launching them. Like we do typically, you know, again, once a year is when we're going to come out with a new driver. So yeah, there's no new drivers coming out this year. You know, there might be something random that comes out, you know, in the fall, sometimes we have these kind of cool items that come out. Like last year, we had that mini driver that came out and we sold out of it, in about 2 months. So there's sometimes we'll have little products like that that'll come and go for a really short period of time. But as far as our main line of products, one time, once a year, and we'll let that whole entire family live to make sure that everybody, gets to experience that product. And then once it's time to launch something new, we'll launch something new.
Got it. All right. So now moving from drivers into irons. So
Yeah.
a couple of the most common questions are, first, what are the best TaylorMade irons?
Okay. So you want to talk current or you want to talk kind of the same as before?
Yeah, let's do both. So right now, what are the best? And then what do you think have been like the best of all time?
Yeah. So the irons, irons is crazy because I think one of as far as we'll go all time first, then I'll tell you kind of my personal favorite. But all time, I think one of the ones that most people would say would be the burner iron back in, I believe it was like 2009, 2011, burner 2.0. So that was kind of one of our first or second variations of like a game improvement, like distance iron, right? So designed to launch super high with a really low center of gravity and go just as far as possible. So really for those golfers that just really needed help with distance, so we kind of took driver innovations and then brought it to our iron line. So those, I still see people that have those. I'm sure if you walked around, people are getting fit at appointments out of Hagen, you'd see guys all the time that will come up and they'll be like, oh, I love these things. Like there's nothing that can beat them. And they just are, they're 10 years old, but they love them. Yeah. So I think from that kind of set the landscape too, as far as like a distance iron, all companies have always had game improvement clubs, but from like a distance club that looked pretty decent, but really like even if you mishit it, it just goes forever. Those burner 2.0s were a really, really good product. And then, from like a player standpoint, I think what I'd get into next is something like our tour preferred line in general. So we have the MCs, the MBs, and the CBs. So there's a version back in 2014 was the original kind of the players line. And some of those actually had some like movable weight right in the middle of the face. So it was a little tungsten weight that we put in there to kind of help improve the center of gravity. And some people ask me all the time, they're like, we guys need to come back out with something like that because those were the best looking irons. They still have them in the garage, et cetera. So that was one of the more popular ones for sure, that whole line. And then we followed that up, I believe it was 2015, 16 with a second version of that, which is one of my favorite shapes of all time that the team did, was the MC. So that was just a little cavity. A lot of, good players really, really like those. And then we get into the current day, which would be, I think, since I've been with the company, by far the most successful iron in like the players category is the current P790s. Okay. It's the one product, I tell people this all the time, generally with every single product, whether you can look at any industry, I guarantee anybody in sales or anybody in marketing, anything would say, if it's a good product, you get 80% of the people that are going to love it, 10% that will hate it, and then 10% that just really will say like, it's fine,
Yeah.
For P7, and that's how it is for all of our products. You'd say people, I love them. I don't like it. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. And then people that just wouldn't really care. They're like, that's fine. I'll probably get something new. I wouldn't buy it again.
Yeah.
So, but the P790, so we've been selling that. So we first launched that 2017, 2-year life cycle on that iron. And then we relaunched it again in 2019, a new version, kind of changed a couple tweaks based on consumer feedback, based on all the testing that we did to kind of change it and improve it because of the success it had. Relaunched it in 2019, and it's just continued to keep growing. And for me, I have not heard from myself or any of my colleagues, any other reps across the US, that have had one person say that they didn't like this iron. So that, right now, currently, if anybody ranging from, honestly, a 0 handicap, if they're, looking for, if they're looking for a little bit more distance, all the way up to like a 17 or 18 handicap, we have people playing these. Anybody in that range, I really suggest if there's a fitting day in your area or a fitting center, anything like that, just to go test them out. Come see you guys. I know you guys have a lot of success with that iron as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people give exceptional feedback. I've seen just them like, oh yeah, I came out, got fitted. I love them. They're like the best iron I've ever hit. So we've definitely heard that from our side as well. In regards to the success of those irons.
Yeah, so I'm sure that iron will stay in the line, obviously all through this year and hopefully, into next year as well, because like I said, there's just never been any product like that has had zero negativity, and people just always, they come up, hey, what do you want to hit today? P790. So when I heard my buddy has them, my dad has them, my brother, I got to get these. And so they get them, and then everybody else wants to get them, because they see how good they hit them. Because the good thing about the P790, for those that don't know, it's a forged product. So it has that really, really nice feel, player's feel. And it has a pretty thin top line, so it doesn't look like a blade, but it also doesn't look like a game improvement iron. But it's a hollow body construction, so it's kind of how manufacturers used to make irons back in the day, before we kind of do what we do now. So it's a hollow body construction, but we inject it with a little bit of what we call speed foam. So speed foam basically just kind of dampens the feel, kind of creates a little bit of that trampoline effect. So it kind of gives you a little bit of juice off the face. But the good thing about them is there's not really hot spots like you'd have on like a cast club. So sometimes with cast, when you get thin faces, what happens is that you get little hot spots sometimes. So somebody, like, if you catch it high on the toe somebody be like, oh man, I hit a pitching wedge like 170 yards. Because you cut a little hot spot, that one shot that you hit, once every 6 months, it's kind of fluky. P790s don't have that, they don't, because they're a forged product and they have that speed foam inside. So I would say from an overall perspective, even though I don't play those irons, they've got to be the most popular and most successful iron product, I think, at least from a player's iron that I've been a part of the company. So for 6 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're good looking too.
Yeah.
Good looking.
Yeah. They got that nice matte finish, super clean, just the T-bug like this, just on the backside. It's really nice.
So then on that, what is the most forgiving iron that you guys have on the line right now?
Yeah. So there's two I would recommend testing out if they're looking for forgiveness. It'd be the Sim Max and then the Sim Max OS. So OS stands for oversize. Okay. So again, it's going to come down to personal preference. The great thing about both of these items, the Sim Max and the Sim Oversize, is that they're the exact same price, exact same shafts, exact same specs. The only thing that's different is that the Sim Max is a little bit thicker up top, so it has a thicker top line. Has the lofts are on average about 1 degree stronger, but there's more mass down in the heel or down in the sole. Yeah. So when there's more mass down in the sole, right, again, it lowers that center of gravity to help them launch it a little bit higher. And then it's filled with a lot more polymer down there. So if you go, if you have customers come get fit for both of them, you could show them both heads, all the fitters can show them both heads and they can see how much polymer is carved in there to kind of improve that sound and feel. But really between those two, the great thing about it, with them being the same price and very, very similar, it just comes down to what they're looking for. Do they like that little thicker look? Do they want that little longer blade length for that extra forgiveness? But both of them are what we consider game improvement clubs. So they both fall into the most forgiving irons that we currently have in our line.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I tested those irons out a while ago, and I would say I'm like not a very great golfer, but I was hitting those exceptionally well for my usual game. So I can definitely attest to the fact that they are game improvement.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heard it here first, folks.
And then, so now to move away from like the clubs themselves a little bit and more into like the company, some of the questions that we're getting is, so the first one, I'll go kind of broad a little bit. So does Nike own TaylorMade?
No, Nike does not own TaylorMade. So we used to be owned by Adidas Golf, or Adidas America, actually. So we were owned by them. I believe they purchased us in '97, and then they sold us. I think the transaction became official right around 2016, 2017, right around that time frame. Okay. So it's been a couple years now, 2-3 years. And now we're owned by a private equity firm. So that's KPS Management. So they're the ones that own us. So it's just us now, just TaylorMade, operating by ourselves under KPS Management.
Got it. And you guys have never been owned by Nike?
No. Okay. They've never been owned by Nike. No.
I have a feeling we'll get to that question soon as to why I think people might think that Nike owns you. But
exactly.
And then on that, so when did TaylorMade buy Adams Golf?
Yeah, so we purchased them. That was an acquisition, I believe. It was actually right around the time I started. So it was about 2013, 2014 timeframe when we kind of merged. So about 6-7 years ago, they had a lot. They were obviously looking to partner up and to sell off the brand, and we had a lot of things that we were interested in about their brand as well. So we decided to purchase them. We still do own them, although we don't produce any Adams products or anything like that. So there's nothing in the pipeline or anything. But yeah, it was about 6-7 years ago.
Got it. And now on to some of the, I'm sure, burning questions for some people, but does Tiger Woods use TaylorMade?
He does. He has since, I believe it was 2017 when we signed Tiger Woods. So that was a huge deal for us. You know, obviously he was coming back from all the back surgeries and kind of getting back into it, and we didn't really know what to expect. And this was just when Nike kind of decided to stop manufacturing hard goods as well. So this was, it was a really, really crazy time for us. This is when I was in the marketing department, and you know, that's when I was a little bit more tied in with what was going on behind the scenes. I didn't believe, and being such a golf fan, the reason I played golf and really got into the industry, I mean, was because of Tiger. You know, I was a baseball kid growing up, always thought I'd be a professional baseball player, and then just fell in love with golf when I was, you know, in high school. And a lot of it's because of him, you know, so, and I'm sure a lot of people have similar stories to that. So when you're working for a brand that has a potential to sign, I mean, it's definitely the greatest golfer of our generation, arguably the greatest ever. I mean, it was a crazy time. So yeah, he's used our products for about 3 years now, and it's been definitely a great thing for the brand, and I think great thing for him. You know, he won the Masters last year. He's won, I think, 3 or 4 events now in our products, and hopefully, you know, with this little layoff, his body comes back fully recovered. He's got a couple more years left in him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on that same thing, as he was coming into the fold, do you have any insights or stories or, you know, examples of how he influenced TaylorMade products, or how he has had an influence since he was kind of grafted in?
Yeah,
and kind of how that worked?
Absolutely. I know for him, it was a big change, switching over from, you know, from the driver, just because, like I was mentioning earlier, the first couple questions about the technology and innovation, is he had always played like a bonded driver. So his driver was always, you know, shaft into head, here you go. You know, so I think with Nike, he might have played the last few models, might have been with the adjustable sleeve. I'm not positive on that, but he'd always played like that. So with us, we don't even offer those anymore. You know, we don't even make them. That's just not how we do things. So for him, it took a while to get used to the difference between different heads and different shafts, and how easy it was to change things in and out to get the right feel. Because as anybody knows, like, he has the greatest feel of all time. I mean, the guy, there's so many crazy stories in his book and other books that have been written about how he could tell the difference between 1 gram or half a degree in lie angle. And, you know, it's just uncanny knack for that type of stuff. But the one thing I would encourage everybody to do is, there is a special on Golf Channel that we kind of partnered with them to do. And it was just called the Tiger Woods Project. And it's about the development of the P7 TW iron. So that's actually an iron that we offer right now in our line. The P7 T-dubs, you guys carry them in the shop as well, and you guys have demos as well, which is great. So you guys, if customers wanted to hit, I'm sure a lot of people hit them and then they're like, probably shouldn't buy these because they're so hard to hit.
But, they're not quite for the average golfer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even for great players, I mean, most guys on tour, a lot of them aren't playing blades, you know, but there's a lot of people that we sold them to that they literally bought the box. Comes in a really cool box with a, you know, kind of a dedicated letter from him and us that talks about the irons. And just a lot of people that have purchased them just keep them for, you know, kind of like a memorabilia item. So, but yeah, with that project, they talked about just how, I think the coolest thing that I learned about that is that how typically when a set of irons is developed, you kind of start with like a 6 or a 7 iron, and then you kind of work your way. Once you find that 6 or 7 iron, the perfect shape, the perfect lines, you kind of work your way to pitching wedge and work your way the other way to, you know, 3 iron or 4 iron for a set. And with him, he is so particular that he designed every iron individually. So his 6 iron, his 7 iron, his 8 iron, they're all individually developed. So the blade length might be the same on his 7 and 8 iron, and then the 9 iron might be a little bit shorter, and vice versa on the way out. So, and for him, it's all about launch windows. He wants to have the same lofts. He wants to have the same lie angles, everything that he's played forever, you know, even though lofts today are a lot stronger. So that's the really cool thing right now, is that you can purchase his exact clubs that he plays on tour, same ones that he won the Masters with. You can purchase those, you know, through you guys and through us, which is just really, really cool. And you can get him Tiger spec. I mean, it's definitely not recommended because his pitching wedge is like, you know, 40, 48 degrees or something like that, or 50 degrees. You know, it
Jeez.
doesn't go very far, but you can get him his spec with his shafts, his grips, his numbers of wraps underneath it, which is cool. Or you can order them if you want to play them with whatever shaft you want, you know, basic, whatever loft and lie you want. So
Yeah.
really cool little combination that they did. And I believe for those irons, I know he put in the bag 3 different phases. So they called them, you know, Tiger Woods phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. He had, I think, 2 or 3 different versions he put in his bag in tour events. But from what I heard from the R&D side is that there was about like 10 or 11 different final variations that he was testing throughout the entire process. And that doesn't even include, you know, the CAD designs and the different heads that were actually brought out to him. Those are the ones he actually tested. There's probably 50 to 100 or more different heads that were actually designed in that whole process, you know. So really, really cool, you know, project. I think I definitely want to watch that show again, because it just provides so much detail into how intense he was about the whole fitting process for himself, you know.
Yeah, I could only imagine at the level he's playing. It seems like he's almost like the princess and the pea of golf. You know, that whole thing where they stacked like 50 mattresses and put a pea at the bottom and they're like, could you tell? That's like him. So then on that, what is currently in Tiger Woods' bag? Do you know?
So
your head?
Yeah, so he goes Sim Driver.
Okay.
This is as of, you know, earlier this year, but he went Sim Driver. And then he was back and forth between the Sim Titanium and then the M5 3-wood. So he was kind of on both of those. And then it depends on what tournament he's playing, but he has he had a Gapper 2-iron in the bag back at Carnoustie a couple years ago. So he goes back and forth between that and then like a P790 2-iron. And then he has an older M3 5-wood actually. Just loves that 5-wood. So he's keeping that one in the bag. So a little bit older. And then his irons, of course, you know, he's got 3-iron through pitching wedge. If his irons that he designed, the P7 TWs. And then with his wedges, he has the milled grind, the raw wedges, the milled grind 2s. So, again, exact same ones we have in the market. He has his own bounce. Exact same ones that you guys sell, the MG2s. He has a 52, 56, 60. And then, of course, his trusty putter of the brand that I cannot name.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. And then aside from Tiger, I know he's, you know, always got a lot of noise coming with him in the sense of everything he does is everyone's so eyes on it. But what other tour players, I know you mentioned a couple when we first started, are currently using TaylorMade?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the cool things about the brand that I'm lucky enough to work for right now is that like our stable of athletes, you know, the guys that represent us and that play our products it's definitely second to none. I don't think anybody can argue that, you know, from the top down. I mean, obviously Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, #1 in the world right now, plays a full bag of TaylorMade clubs, including golf ball. Dustin Johnson, former #1 in the world, full bag of TaylorMade clubs, including golf ball. You got Matthew Wolf, you got John Rahm, you got Jason Day, Colin Morikawa, who's another younger up and comer, you know, young guy out of Cal Berkeley. So he won a tournament last year. And then Ricky Fowler plays our golf ball. You know, he doesn't play our products, but he plays the TP5 Picks golf ball, which he designed, you know, which is really, really cool. And then we have a few others. We're really getting into more of the, like kind of the LPGA tour as well. So we have a couple up and comers on the LPGA tour. So our stable of athletes right now is really, really elite.
Yeah, that's very impressive. You got some big names on there.
Yeah, good. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so getting back into like the club making itself is, where are TaylorMade clubs made?
So they're made kind of in different parts. So, you know, a lot of them come from Southeast Asia. So, you know, Vietnam, Taiwan, etc. Some parts are from China, but the majority of our products, they are assembled in the U.S. And then everything ships out of our warehouse, in Indiana. So we have one main warehouse that kind of ships all of our products, golf ball plants in different spots in South Carolina, but everything's shipping from the US. We have a custom warehouse down in Mexico that ships all of our custom product across the US. But as far as that, majority of stuff gets assembled in the US or down in Mexico for custom products.
Got it. And by custom products, what do you mean? Like what is the breadth of the custom options? Or is that oh, go ahead.
So custom would be, so anything that's ordered online, right? So we do the majority of it. If you're ordering, you know, say you want a set of P790s, 4-through pitching wedge, 1 degree upright, that's a custom iron set. So those are going to ship from our custom warehouse, which again, we have one in Mexico, and then we have a couple lines that are at our Carlsbad headquarters as well. So we kind of have majority comes out of Mexico, but some comes out of Carlsbad, which is where like our repair center is as well for people that have stuff that breaks or need to get, adjusted on the line angle or regripped, etc. We do a lot of all that stuff down in Carlsbad.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure it wasn't like the secret unknown thing that people could get all pink clubs or something if they really want.
Oh, no. So what we do offer, which you guys can order, for customers as well, which I know you guys have, is like the My Spider and the My High Toes.
Yeah, we've had some cool ones.
Yeah, so there's some in the shop that Ken has designed, which are really, really cool. So those all come from our vendor overseas as well, but those are really cool. You can order them. You could have a customer come into Ken's office and design a putter for him right there and order it, and in a couple of weeks it'd be at his front door. So you can design anything from the sight line of a putter, the stamping on a wedge. You could do kind of everything that you wanted. So make it really, really custom to exactly what you want.
Yeah, that's super, super cool. So we know where they're made. And then how do we know if a TaylorMade club is tour issue? What are some things people can look for? Yeah.
Yeah. So the cool thing about kind of the way that we design our clubs now, especially starting last year, is with the new technology we have, which we inject the resin into the face, and the way that we're doing our COR and CT testing. So essentially, heat mapping the faces so that every single face from a demo driver all the way through a tour driver, the driver that Tiger Woods plays, they're all going to be consistent from a COR and CT perspective. So for those that don't know, essentially what that is it's measuring how fast the ball is coming off the face, and the USGA restricts the amount of speed that can happen. Otherwise it becomes illegal. So for us, we're able to, with this new process, we actually manufacture all these faces and all the sim drivers. It started again last year with M5, M6. And like I mentioned earlier, we roll upon those technologies. So it's sim drivers now, Sim Max, Sim Max D-Type. All three of those drivers have the same technology. And what we're doing now is we actually bring these faces in illegally. So we manufacture them illegally past the speed limit, the COR speed limit. Mm-hmm. And then we have a machine that it goes through this algorithm, and it ejects a certain amount of resin into the toe and into the heel of the face to scale it back to a conforming product. So we can really, really control the exact amount of resin that goes into the face to control the amount of COR and CT speed that's basically it's being measured at. So how do you know if it's tour? I guess what my point is that all clubs are going to be consistent. Like that's what this whole new technology. Mm-hmm. But typically with tour issue, what that does is that those are just designed, those are handpicked and put onto the tour truck. And those usually would have like a check mark or like a little cross on the hosel that's engraved. Okay. We do it differently every year. Sometimes the serial number might be unique and a little bit differently, but we don't sell any of those, unfortunately. They're not available to retailers, and we don't sell any of that stuff like online or anything like that. I'm sure customers try to get them aftermarket or something, but we do not offer those, especially because of how good our products are right now and how it's measured. I mean, there's really no difference between, you could take a demo driver off the rack at Hagen Oaks and give it to Tiger Woods and take Tiger Woods driver and measure them and put them on the scale, and they should come out to the exact same speed across the entire face.
Wow. Yeah. So it's like, you really aren't going to get access to tour issue, but you also don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, yeah.
In the past, people would pay a lot of money to get a tour issue product because it was tour issue, because maybe they thought it was faster or it was made better or whatever, you wanted it just because of cool factor, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there's no difference in the way that we manufacture our products now and the way that they're made for tour. They come off the exact same line. It's just the only thing that we do differently is that we actually pull these tour heads and we test them a few more times, really, just to make sure they're not illegal. That's all we do. We test them even more to make sure they're not illegal. And if they are illegal, we get rid of them, because that's the last thing we want, is to have somebody on tour playing a driver that's too fast. So if anything, they'd be right up to that limit or a little bit lower, just like all of our drivers should be.
Yeah, absolutely. The only time you want an illegal driver is when you want to show off for your friends on the course.
Yeah, or in a scramble tournament.
Yeah. Okay. And so now onto a little bit of like some opinion pieces. I mean, I guess to sum it up is like, for you, having so much experience with the brand and having been around it for so long, if you had to create your perfect bag of TaylorMade products, what would it be?
All right. So I already answered the driver. So Sim driver. I currently have that in the bag. Love it.
Would it be a Sim or Sim Max, Sim Max D, or
Normal Sim? Yeah. So I
okay?
play 9-degree Sim driver. Yeah. And then 3-wood, that Sim titanium 3-wood is amazing. I have the M6 and that. I'm kind of testing them both right now. But that Sim titanium fairway wood is really, really, really good. So that one and the M6, those would be kind of my back and forth,
Okay.
1A, 1B, if you will. And then I don't play a 5-wood or a rescue. I've just never been a rescue guy. So I go into a P792 iron.
Okay.
Probably my favorite club in the bag. Anybody that plays with me knows that. I mean, if I ever need to hit a fairway, that's my club I take out every time. So I love that club.
Interesting.
So that won't be gone for a long, long time. And then I go 4-through pitching wedge and the P760 irons. So that's kind of a step down from the P760 or P790. So a little bit more of a smaller shape and cavity pack. So that would what I'd do for my iron set. And then 52, 56, 60 in the MG2 raw wedges.
Okay.
Would be what I have. I play standard bounce in the 52, 56, low bounce in the 60. And then putter, I have kind of like a custom Spider Tour. So not the new Spider X. I have a Spider X, but Spider Tour is just made, it's one of those things. A lot of people don't change putters too often. So I played the Spider Tour from last year, 2 years ago. So I love that putter. It'll be really tough for me to get rid of anytime soon. And then golf ball, I play the TP5X.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's like your perfect golf bag.
Yeah. I wouldn't change.
Awesome.
I mean, again, I don't, of course, I always test all the new products, but especially with irons and stuff, I've had these irons in the bag for a while now. So, not too much that I need to change. It's more just working and having time to go practice and play more.
The most important part of golf,
Yeah.
where you're actually practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. That's a good makeup there. And then the last question I have from all of these searches we found is, what is some of the coolest developments coming up the stream, or from that at least you've heard of and that you can talk a little bit about, that's going to be coming out from TaylorMade? Could be with clubs, balls, pretty much anything.
Yeah, I mean, well, I just think just the things that we just came out with are probably the things I'd want to touch on most. So,
Okay.
And a lot of it revolves around the golf ball, honestly, like I kind of just mentioned. So kind of right before the whole, the whole pandemic happened, or in middle of March, we had just launched with Ricky Fowler, his new TP5 and TP5X picks. So this one is such a cool product, and a lot of people, it didn't get its time of day yet because so much has been shut down and we're slowly starting to reopen. But that golf ball is so cool because he designed it. He designed it with our designers. That's one of the reasons he left his previous company and came to us, is because he knew we had this technology and he wanted to design his own golf ball. So it's really, really cool. It has kind of an alignment aid for putting, which he's probably the best putter in the world right now, especially for anybody that watched on Sunday. The guy was rolling it in from everywhere. So definitely check that out. And then something that I'm really intrigued by is the TP5 and TP5X in yellow that just came out April 15th. So that just launched again right in the middle of the pandemic. So, as golf shops start to open, customers will be able to, come to Hagen Oaks and check that out. But the TP5, I've never played a yellow ball because I've always played kind of a tour ball. So our TP5X I've always played, and our tour preferred before that, but we've never made it in a yellow color. So we just came out with that again, and I just got to test it a few weeks ago, and I really, really like it. It's just so different. The yellow, I think the team did a really good job on that color. So I would definitely check out those products. With our golf ball and the TP5, TP5X really taken off since it launched back in 2017. I would just encourage people to try that out. And now that we have these different options for those that really prefer a yellow ball, or they like different designs on their ball, especially something that can benefit their game, at least when they practice as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, if it's good enough for Ricky Fowler, the best putter in the world, it's definitely good enough for me and for most people. So that's what I would kind of focus on. As far as other developments, I don't know too much, again, because I'm on the sales side, so I'm not on the inside, with my feet on the floor anymore like I was back in the day. So I don't know too much about anything coming in the pipeline, and just get to wait and see, just like the rest of us out there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's slowed down a little bit too, as they're trying to figure out as deadlines and stuff may be pushed or whatever because of all this
Yeah.
stuff that's going on. So absolutely. And then with the ball, you said that it, recently released right before a lot of this happened and as it was going on. What are some of the biggest um, new features of these balls? I know you said a little bit of an alignment aid and new color option. Is there anything with the actual makeup of the ball, from cover to core, anywhere in there that's been a cool new innovation or change?
Yeah. So when we first came out with it in 2017, it was really that's what kind of set us into getting really into like, becoming known as one of the best golf balls, if not the best golf ball in the industry, because it's
Mm-hmm.
5 layers. So what happens with 5 layers is it's the only 5-layer ball on the market in a tour ball.
Hmm.
So other companies have 3 and 4 layer golf balls, but ours is the only one that offers 5. So with that being said, what that allows us to do is kind of decouple launch and spin. So I think anybody that plays this golf ball, who tests this golf ball, will say it is by far the best golf ball on the wind. It doesn't, it'll beat anything, from a side wind, headwind, downwind, anything like that. It holds greens, it holds its line a lot more true than anything out there. The one thing with the 2017 version that we got a lot, some people said they wanted to change, was the cover wasn't as consistent. It didn't spin enough around the greens, and then it also wasn't as durable as we hoped.
Okay.
So what we did in 2019, when we added some new technology to this, we introduced this new material called HFM, and that's in the 4th layer of the golf ball. And then we got a new paint cover. So what happens there with this new paint cover is it's basically like scratch and cart path tree resistant.
Okay.
So the durability of this golf ball is, again, second to none. Still has all those features from the full 5 layers. Has this new HFM material, which is really good for durability. And then the one other thing is that the difference, we really kind of separated the difference between TP5 and TP5X. So in 2017, they were very, very similar. I believe the compression on TP5 was 90 and the X was 95. So very, very similar ball. The only thing is that the X launched a little bit higher and was a little bit firmer. That's it. Besides that, it was just like, hey, test them both and let us know which one you like. So it was kind of a toss-up. What they did in 2019 is we kind of separated them a little bit more. So now TP5 is much softer than TP5X. TP5X is still at right around like 97, and then TP5 is at 87. So we kind of really separated them a little bit more. And then they added in a new cast urethane cover into the TP5. So with cast urethane, and there's only a couple other manufacturers that use this patented cast urethane cover. And the TP5 with this new material that we have on the cover, it spins so well inside of 100 yards. So really now it really helps, you guys, everybody on the sales floor, really helps when customers come up and ask, oh, which ball should I play? I like TaylorMade. I want to play a TaylorMade ball, or I play this ball right now. What's closest to this? And before we'd say, oh, they're both very similar. It just depends if you like something that's a little bit softer, whereas now it's like, do you want something that's firmer and going to launch higher, or something that's much softer and going to spin more around the greens, So it's a lot easier, and they're more segmented than before. They were like really, really similar, and there was just a couple small changes and no one could really tell the difference.
Got it. Okay. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
thank you for going a little deeper there.
Yeah,
I think that's always good, as you release new models and so forth. Well, awesome. I mean, those are all the questions I have that we found online. So I think people are going to find those super valuable. Do you have any other things that you think are worth mentioning or that diving into a little bit before we hop off here?
I mean, we hit on a lot of stuff. I think just the only other thing is I would just, obviously people are going to be really happy to get back out. I know golf courses have been open for the most part, especially I know you guys have been open, just about for the whole time, which is amazing. And it should be, you can social distance on a golf course, you can walk, you can keep your space, which is great. So as things continue to open and golfers are really excited to go get fit, I just encourage everybody to get fit and at least go test out the products, whether it be TaylorMade or other manufacturers. Compare, let the fitters at Hagen Oaks, or let the fitters that work in your area, give you a really good fitting so you can really see the numbers and compare, and really get fit, because the one thing about golf is that there's no two golf swings that are identical.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could play your buddies or your brother's clubs who you think are going to be really similar, but I could tell you right now that they're not going to be similar, and you're going to need to get fit for those products. So go see guys that do this professionally every single day. Guys and gals, they are just the best at what they do, especially at Hagen Oaks. I mean, Performance Center, second to none. They have every single product that TaylorMade has to offer. They have every single fitting piece that I have in all of my matrices, TrackMan, etc. So just strongly encourage everybody to go get fit, test the new products. I mean, I always say it every year. I'm just like, man, I don't know how our R&D team just continues to develop and make stuff so good. But I think from top to bottom this year, our line is it's incredible. There's something for everybody. The pricing is really, really good. Everything's really fair. All the options we have from a custom standpoint are really, really good. And we just have something for everybody. So I'm excited to get back out there and look forward to having Hagen Oaks getting back going. And just go get fit. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't recommend that anymore. So awesome. Well, thank you for hopping on and answering these questions. I think people are going to find them super valuable. And otherwise, until next time, hopefully next time we chat, maybe it'll be in person with Jen and Ken on the video and me back behind the camera. But otherwise, I really appreciate it. I think this was awesome, super educational and entertaining. So until next time, I'll let you go. But thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Clay.
All right.
See ya.